The bones of the lower appendicular skeleton are these. We're going to start with the bones of the pelvis, which you will never use as an answer on my practical. You must also use always use one of the three bones that make that pelvis up. So let's start with the easiest of the three. I'll put it here with A. First I have to have a color. A. The wings, you can call it the ears of the elephant if you want to. That's how I see it. And if you put ilium, then you are right. Yay, you did it. And then we have B in the center. You can see my little pointer pointing to it. Hopefully you put that as pubis. And then C, I need to use a different color there so you can see it. C, which are the loops, and you're probably sitting on those right now. That's the ischium. Yay! Now we have some special features in here that we have to know. Not too many, not enough to hurt. So we'll start with this little guy here, which I've already got labeled. That is where the two pubic bones come together in the center and form a joint. It's in two words. Pubic symphysis or symphysis. Okay. The next is the hole in the loops. That's called the obturator foramen. The symphysis doesn't look right. Doesn't that have a Y there instead? Maybe. We'll find out. You tell me. And then I'll know if you watch the video. Then we have the actual socket of the ball and socket joint of the hip. The depression into these bones. It's called, you're going to pronounce it acetabulum, but it's correctly pronounced the acetabulum. And those are the parts of the pelvis. Let's move on now. Look at this great big femur. It was hard to do this. I can tell you that. First, let's label the proximal and distal ends of this femur. That's really nice. We can also do medial and lateral because you can see that quite easily with this. Now, as to whether this is right or left, I can't tell because the picture didn't show this area very well. That looks like the front of the bone, so that would make this a left femur. But, basic parts. So let's move on over to the head view over here, which I have at the top right. It looks very nice. And we're going to start with a little hole in the head of that femur, which you can't really see on this view. I needed to turn the bone a little bit for the photograph. It wasn't working with me. It was not a good model. It tried to be. And that's called the fovea capitis, which could mean a little hole in the head. And so we can label the head. We can label, a neck. We got a neck there. And then we have these big bumps above and below. And the big bump above is called the greater trochanter. The one below is called the lesser trochanter. Good. This other arrow that I have right here, that's where you would actually cut the bone off to do the hip replacement surgery. So this is called the surgical neck. Don't think I went over that on the humerus, but you have to know those same parts on the humerus. Alrighty. The area down in the bottom picture, I have these condyles. These are condyles. That's the knuckles, kind of, where that bone meets the top of the tibia. We also have some epicondyles. And you can't really tell which ones they are on that picture, but you can over here on this one. Let me switch to blue. That's one epicondyle, and that's another one. The one that's on the medial side is called the medial epicondyle. The one on the lateral side then is the lateral epicondyle. How about that? Seems like that's the intercondylar notch or something like that. We'll see. Now I have a picture of the tibia. Let me move this little recording thingy. I have a tibia here for us to look at. I can bring it on top probably. Let me move it a little bit. I can move it just a bit. That's good. And so let's label the tibia first. This is the tibia. This is the proximal end of the tibia, which seems upside down, and this would be the distal end of the tibia. So we have the head of the tibia, and on that tibia I have to move this arrow now because I moved it away from where it should be. There it goes. There's a bump on the front of that tibia called the tibial tuberosity. Then the other arrow is pointing to another bump, which just happens to be on the inside of your ankle. It's called the medial malleolus, or if you want to call it malleolus, that's fine. Which gets its name from the word mallet. Like a hammer is a mallet, that kind of thing. The other bone is the fibula. And the little bump down at the bottom is the outside bump of your ankle. Therefore, it's known as the lateral malleolus or malleolus. There are some knuckles up there at the top we can't see from that view. And we do have a medial side and a lateral side on that. It is the shin bone, if you want to think of it that way. And the fibula is the one that most often breaks. When somebody says they break an ankle, they're actually breaking that little bone right there. It's not truly their ankle, breaking their lower leg. Here are their ankle bones. That's how we know. Look how big and thick these bones are. Very hard to break. So we have a very, very, very big heel bone back here, known as the calcaneus, or calcaneus, if you want to be that way about it. The bone that receives the tibia is called the talus, which means table. The bone just to the right, in front of the talus, is called the navicular. And its friend just below it is called the cuboid, and you notice it is cube-shaped. And then we have bones 1, 2, and 3. They get their name from being a block shape, kind of like that, which in Egyptian was called the cuneiform. And they wrote that way, with those styluses, like from the bones. And they wrote their block printing, which was known as cuneiform printing. Let me see if I can write that in here for us. So the cuneiform gave this their name, the three little blocks in front of the navicular. They are named several different ways. Sometimes it's first, second, and third cuneiform. Sometimes it's medial, intermediate, and lateral cuneiform. We'll have to see which one your book does. And that is the end of the lower appendicular skeleton.